Hi everybody, good morning. First of all, thank you all for attending this meeting today, organized by ILNAS, the EIG ANEC and the EIG SMILE, inside the Cybersecurity Week. My name is Jean-Philippe Imbert and I'm the Deputy Director of ILNAS. ILNAS is a national public administration under the supervision of the Minister of the Economy. And for the economy, in fact, ILNAS provides a lot of different services. The goal is to protect the market and protect the products and services and to provide quality and security. In fact, a specific mission, a legal mission of ILNAS is technical standardization. And today we are really proud to provide two main outcomes inside this domain of technical standardization. The first one is this National Technical Standardization Analysis for ICT sector. And the second one is a new commission for technical standardization for the cybersecurity sector. So this is really in the frame of Cybersecurity Week, a real momentum in order to provide cybersecurity technical standardization to the market. I don't want to develop a lot about that because we are going to receive two presentations about these two outcomes of ILNAS today. This is in the frame of our technical standardization strategy, 2020-2030. The goal for us is to promote the market with the important use of technical standards, and last but not least, the involvement for a technical standardization for the market. So to become delegates and to defend the interest of the market inside different technical committees. So for this new technical standardization analysis for the ICT sector, you will find a lot of state-of-the-art of ICT technical standardization. So don't hesitate to consult in order to discover maybe to dive inside this new state-of-the-art, and why not to come on board and to become a delegate into technical standardization. So don't hesitate, we can be there to coach you. And for the second outcomes, finally, the new commission for technical standardization concerning cybersecurity domain. It's a new unique area, a new platform for the market, where you can easily meet the different national, European, and international delegates. So don't hesitate to come on board again, because you will see and you will discover all this framework really important for the market. So I don't want to speak a lot. I would like to now leave the floor to Mr. Jérôme Herold, responsible for the national standards body, the standards department inside ILNAS, and he will give you some details about the general context of these two outcomes through the technical standardization strategy 2020-2030. So I wish you a good cybersecurity week, a good cybersecurity event with ILNAS, ANEC, and SMILE, and I hope to see you inside one or more technical committees into technical standardization. So we need you. Don't hesitate to come on board. Thank you for your attention.
So as Dr. Humbert just explained, the National Standardization Strategy is a document which provides the major guidelines for our standardization activities at national level. So this document has been established by ILNAS, the National Standards Body of Luxembourg, and approved by the Minister of the Economy. But what is the National Standards Body and what are our main missions? So the National Standards Body is a department of ILNAS composed of 6 people. And our main missions are already to represent Luxembourg at European and international standardization organizations and at the European Commission. We also manage the participation of national experts in national, European, and international standardization activities, where we currently have a total of nearly 300 registered delegates. We also provide standards to the market. On the one side, we have our ILNAS eShop, where interested stakeholders can buy standards. And we also have on the other side our ILNAS reading stations, where free consultations of standards is possible. So currently we have 9 different reading stations which can be found all over the national territory. And as a national standards body, of course, we also aim to develop a normative culture in Luxembourg. So we disseminate relevant information on technical standardization to the market via our different communication channels. We propose continuous trainings on the topic of standardization, and we also have a dedicated training catalog. And we provide targeted standards watch on demand by interested stakeholders. But in order to be able to ensure a proper execution of the National Standardization Strategy, ILNAS is strongly supported by EIG ANEC. So EIG ANEC, which means Agence pour la normalisation et l'économie de la connaissance, has been created in 2010 in a common initiative between the Chamber of Commerce, Chamber of Trades, the Ministry of the Economy and ILNAS. The objectives of the EIG ANEC are the promotion, awareness raising and training, applied research in the field of standardization and metrology in order to support companies' competitiveness in Luxembourg. For the moment, there are 13 collaborators which are working at EIG ANEC in total, so including 6 in the standardization department. As highlighted by Dr. Humbert, 3 key sectors have been identified in the National Standardization Strategy as being of particular interest for the national economic growth, among which one is the ICT sector. For each sector, a national development policy has been developed and published for the period 2020-2025, and they will also be updated for the period 2025-2030. And now I'm going to briefly introduce to you the National Policy on ICT Technical Standardization. So this policy has been defined in order to foster and strengthen the national ICT sector involvement in standardization work through 3 lead projects. So the first lead project aims to reinforce the valorization and involvement regarding ICT technical standardization. We already promote the use of relevant ICT standards to the national market by making a focus on all the relevant standards of the ICT domain in order to promote and foster their use by national markets, specifically through its business activities. We also participate in technical committees in order to provide the most relevant information for the national ICT standardization community. And in this context, ILNAS commissioned EIG ANEC to follow closely and directly specific technical committees. And we also provide information to the national community in order to share ICT standardization knowledge at national level. And this is why EIG ANEC organizes, under the supervision of ILNAS, related workshops specifically in the frame of the ICT perspective. The second lead project aims to support and strengthen the education about standardization and related research activities. So we manage the Master Technopreneurship, which has been developed by ILNAS in collaboration with the University of Luxembourg and the Chambre des Salariés. And in this context, we also developed related ICT research activities in collaboration with the University of Luxembourg. So the first research program, which had an exclusive focus on ICT, is finished. And the second research program at Horizon 2021-2030 has just been launched. So in this research program, 3 PhDs will work on the 3 sectors identified by the National Standardization Strategy, among which one is the ICT sector. Then we have our third lead project, which aims to promote ICT technical standardization to the market. So we draw up a national standards analysis for the ICT sector, which is a sector-based snapshot and which will be updated twice a year. This document is composed of different types of information. So you will already find a standards watch of the related sector, where you can find an inventory of standards, so of both published and under development at European and international level. There will also be an identification and description of technical standardization committees, as well as a mention of the related national representation. Beside of the standards watch of the related sector, you will also find relevant foreign consortia related to the ICT sector, as well as a final report of analysis and opportunities. And beside of the national standards analysis, we will also define a national implementation plan for ICT technical standardization, which is in line with the national standards analysis. And now As we have had an introduction to our national policy on ICT technical standardization, my colleague Dr. Loncrenon from EIG ANEC, who is the responsible of the standardization department of EIG ANEC, will now provide you a more detailed information about the new national standards analysis for the ICT sector.
Hello. So thank you, Jérôme, for the handoff, and thanks to all of you for taking the time to join this event. So I'm Dr. Jean Loncrenon, head of the standardization department of the ANEC GIE, and I will be indeed telling you a bit about the latest ILNAS publication, which is the new edition of the sectoral standards analysis for the ICT sector in Luxembourg. So, as we all know, ICT is one of the major domains of Luxembourg's economy. There's an extremely vibrant ecosystem of Luxembourg companies. Indeed, there are over 2,900 of these, employing over 20,000 people in the country. And this ecosystem has been and continues to be supported by various initiatives that have been developed over the years, such as Digital Luxembourg, or successive national cybersecurity strategies, the latest of which would be the 4th edition. We have the National Strategic Vision for Artificial Intelligence in Luxembourg, and we also have, say, the Data-Driven Innovation Strategy for the development of a trusted and sustainable economy, among other examples of this support. And this really has contributed to making Luxembourg a real leader for ICT in Europe, and it shows in the results. For instance, we are 3rd in connectivity in the EU's 2020 Digital Economy and Society Index from 2020. We were 13th in ITUT's Global Cybersecurity Index, also for 2020. So as already explained, one of the tools available to the market for its overall development is technical standardization, whether this is to apply standards or to participate in shaping future standards that might affect one's business. And this is particularly true in the domain of ICT, which, as we all know, is rapidly evolving, constantly evolving, mixing older topics such as software development and digitally recorded media or coded characters, with more recent smart paradigms like cloud computing, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and even most recently, blockchain technologies. There are also quite a bit of domain-specific ICT considerations, for instance, e-health or connected vehicles, even online education, and so on and so forth. And of course, there are the overarching and particularly crucial domains of information security and cybersecurity, which contribute to digital trust. So technical standardization in all of these fields can really serve as a catalyst to adopt technologies and also to help ensure digital trust, and therefore stakeholders that make their voices heard in technical standards really have the opportunity to enhance their business, to provide better quality to their customers, and to contribute to the bettering of society as a whole. So the questions that remain now are, for instance, how does one go about participating, and to whom should one turn to do so? And perhaps most importantly, which committees are there to choose from, and on what topics? The first two questions we have already received answers to by our first speakers, and I'm here to answer the last with this document. So, the Standards Analysis ICT Sector Luxembourg of 2021 really has the purpose of being a practical tool for market players to quickly identify ICT technical committees that are related to their business activities as a first step towards participating in this important economic process, which should be viewed as an opportunity. The document gathers in a single publication, a single resource, a recap of all the major technical standardization committees related to the ICT sector that the Luxembourg market should be aware of from a participation point of view, namely those committees from the major international SDOs, such as, say, ISO or IEC, and European SDOs, CEN, CENELEC, and ETSI. Concretely, the way it's presented is each committee will have an ID card, which gives you information on the topics it covers, that is, its scope. You'll also see information on its size, its organizational structure, and quite interestingly, the degree to which Luxembourg is involved. To make the identification of relevant technical committees as practical as possible, the document first proposes a classification of these committees in order to regroup them according to, say, several domains, several subsectors, which I will detail a bit right now. So first, we have cloud computing, committees related to cloud computing. The main idea behind cloud computing is to deliver IT services in a kind of pay-as-you-go basis. Really enable access to computing resources, hardware, software, applications, as a utility. And in recent years, cloud technologies have really changed the way business processes are addressed and managed. The next set of committees concerns the Internet of Things, the IoT. The IoT refers to kind of business processes and applications of sensed data or sensed information that are generated by any type of connected device, usually through the internet, across the overall ecosystem. We see more and more devices connected nowadays to the internet. Our next committee or set of committees concern artificial intelligence and big data. So AI is not new, but thanks to a recent surge in computing power, it has really taken off lately. And essentially, it is the science and engineering that goes around trying to make computers think almost as humans to solve complex problems. And it has a special relation to big data, which itself involves the systematic treatment of large volumes of data, of information, for the analytical purposes. Typically, big data is used in AI for training purposes, to train the AIs to do what they're supposed to do. Our next category of committees concerns software and programming languages. The topic here essentially covers everything from programming languages themselves and software interfaces to supporting tools and technologies for software engineering in general. Next, we have the committees related to blockchain technologies. Blockchain and distributed ledger technologies, which are very recent, are essentially enhanced distributed databases where participants need to run a more or less constraining consensus mechanism to validate changes collectively, in a way, in particular, to spread trust evenly across mutually distrusting parties. Our next category is a very important one, especially for this event. It is digital trust. This domain really is about gaining enough assurance that an ICT product or process or service is reliable and performs exactly as we expect it to. And so the set of committees will englobe, among other things, the topics of information security and cybersecurity in order to contribute to better protecting our ever more digitized world. Our next category is telecommunications and networks. So telecommunications and networks basically cover the transmission and reception of signals, whether it's by wire or by radio or optical, any kind of electromagnetic radiation, and also the organization and realization of these communication links into networks. Next, we have committees related to governance of information technology. So governance is kind of a system by which IT would be controlled and used within an organization, either presently or in the future. And it's a subset of overall corporate governance, really dedicated to information technology. Then we have committees related to education and training, particularly useful these days. These would be the ICT tools that are geared towards education and training, including for online or distance learning. Next, we have another vertical, electronic health. The use of ICT in the health sector to provide better materials, better equipment, and on the whole, better care to patients, whether in hospital or even remotely. We have a whole series of committees on fintech or financial technologies, the collective set of ICT that enable and support financial activities. In recent years, it has even started taking advantage of newer paradigms, such as the previously mentioned blockchain and artificial intelligence, among others. We then have committees on green ICT and data centers, which are also quite relevant these days. The topic addresses how to really minimize the environmental impact of our ever-growing IT consumption, but also addresses designing new IT that best achieves this goal. Next, we have a whole series of domains related to the Internet of Things. The first is intelligent transport systems. So ITS use available information and interconnectivity to provide safer, more efficient, and more environment-friendly transportation services. You can think, say, connected buses, real-time schedules, and so on and so forth. Then we have smart cities, which arguably englobe intelligent transportation systems. Smart cities are the collective systems of systems that rely on ICT and the information underlying it to typically better the city living or the city dwelling experience. And they will typically rely also on ITS, IoT in general, and others. And then we have smart energy and smart grid committees. So these are this topic is primarily focused on the use of ICT to better manage the generation, distribution, and metering of energy to consumers, and really provide better services in terms of energy consumption. And finally, we have, as a category, smart manufacturing, which is the idea of creating smart systems that use modern tools, the Internet of Things, sensing, in the manufacturing environment, really to enable next generation industrial tools. And it typically also relies on robotics, the IoT, 3D printing, and others. So, ILNAS have been publishing and updating editions of an ICT sectoral standards analysis for quite some time now, for the last 2 years. With this edition, note that a change from previous years has been enacted, in that there's a real will to broaden the scope of the document. Indeed, since 2018, the analysis has been usually focused on smart, secure ICT, covering specifically cloud computing, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and blockchain, and related digital trust items. While this time around, it was decided really to cover all ICT sectors relevant to the country, going as wide as possible. So those of you who are interested in smart, secure ICT, don't worry, the committees are there as well, of course, among those that were just listed. You'll also find that certain sections are dedicated to committees of special importance, such as ISO and IEC's Joint Technical Committee JTC1 on Information Technology, and other committees that didn't quite fit the taxonomy, but still belonged in the document out of interest for the market. So the document itself really is structured as follows. It's self-contained in that it first provides context, a recap of Luxembourg's strategy and policy related to technical standardization, and also kind of an overall state of the national ICT market from an economic point of view. Then it will give you some fundamentals on standardization, telling you in particular who the major SDOs are and what their relation is to ILNAS, your national standards body. Following that, you'll also find the concrete list of committees organized thematically, as previously described. You'll also find lists of certain fora and consortia that are relevant to certain subsections of the ICT domain. And finally, You'll find information on opportunities that ILNAS and ANIC have to offer you, the market, in terms of standardization, echoing what was already described by Mr. Herold earlier. So, to recap what was previously said, this document is meant to be a practical tool for the market. Therefore, we really would like to encourage you to dive into this document, to really look for what's relevant to your activities, your business. Note that this can be related to core business processes or activities, but not just. It can also help you in your internal processes for the application, say, of a management system or of a procurement process in order to select a technology or a product. We're also quite keen on getting your opinion on the document. So there will be a possibility to fill out a satisfaction survey covering the scope, the length, the organization, also welcoming open comments, thereby helping us with future editions, aiming to make it even more practical and useful for you. So I'll end now by stating simply that standards and standardization, they really have a lot to offer you, especially for ICT. And at ILNAS and ANIC, we will welcome you with open arms to help you out on your standardization journey. Thank you very much.
So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining this event today. I am Nicolas de Manjou, responsible for ICT and Technical Standardization in the Standardization Department of ILNAS, which is the national standards body of Luxembourg. In the context of the Cybersecurity Week, we are very pleased to present you the most recent development in relation with Cybersecurity Technical Standardization, the creation of the National Standardization Commission Cybersecurity. At the national standards body, ILNAS is the national member representing Luxembourg in the recognized international and European standardization organizations, CEN and ISO for standardization in general, CENELEC and IEC for electrotechnical standardization, and ETSI and ITUT for telecommunications standardization. In the international standardization system, cooperation agreements between the different organizations have been established in order to answer efficiently the market needs. Some of the principles behind this cooperation are the primacy of international standards in regards to the regional ones, so for example, European standards, in order to avoid the duplication of standards, or also the creation of joint technical committees in order to cover some technical areas that are not in the scope only of one organization. So, for example, ISO and IEC, as Jean presented, for example, have created the Joint Technical Committee ISO IEC GTC1 dedicated to technical standardization for the ICT sector. More recently, CEN and CENELEC have also created joint technical committees mainly dealing with ICT topics. Since we focus today on cybersecurity, I will now explain you how the different organizations are sharing the standardization work on this topic and why we decided to create this new National Standardization Commission dedicated to cybersecurity. In this frame, we will focus in particular on the cybersecurity activities of ISO IEC GTC1 and CEN CENELEC. Although, even if cooperation agreements are in place, due to the constantly growing importance of cybersecurity, in all the economic sectors, different technical committees have been created at international and European levels in order to develop the standards needed by the market. In this frame, we have identified 3 main entities at international level and 2 at the European one, working on cybersecurity-related standards. It is worth mentioning that Luxembourg also has a community of national members involved in ETSI's work, some of them participating in the activities of ICT Technical Committee Cyber, which also develops cybersecurity standards. However, today I will not enter in the details of this committee since it is not in the scope of our National Standardization Commission due to the fact that national stakeholders willing to participate in this work have to register directly at ETSI as ETSI members and not through ILNAS. So currently we have 36 national delegates who are currently involved in the cybersecurity standardization activities at the international level, and 7 in the European ones in CEN-CENELEC. These are the experts registered through ILNAS in order to participate in the standardization work of these technical committees and working groups. This community of experts is one of the most important in Luxembourg in regards to the number of delegates registered and also to the active participation of national experts in the development of international standards. For example, we have many experts who are editors of standards at international level. However, we have noticed a fragmentation of the work at national level, and in particular, a lack of participation in the European standards projects, which take more and more importance nowadays with the development of standards supporting recent regulations such as the GDPR, the Cybersecurity Act, or the Radio Equipment Directive. Moreover, we have noticed that it adds complexity for national delegates or any national stakeholder who would be interested to participate in cybersecurity standardization activities to register and follow multiple technical committees with different electronic platforms and different roles. Indeed, participation in technical committees at national level is currently organized in a way where any international or European technical committee is mirrored at a national level by an equivalent national Maroc committee, gathering all the experts who have registered in this committee. This one-one approach is not anymore efficient for the cybersecurity domain, so we have decided to create this commission. So here are some details on the most relevant technical committees we have identified and selected to be part of this commission. At international level, we have this technical committee ISO SC GTC1 SC 27. This subcommittee SC27 is well known for the development notably of the ISO IC 27000 series of standards, or also the common criteria for IT security evaluation. The other entities identified at international level are the ISO IC GTC1 Working Group 13, developing standards related to ICT trustworthiness, and ISO Project Committee 317, which is currently working on an international standard, privacy by design for consumer goods and services. At European level, we have identified mainly the CEN-CENELEC Joint Technical Committee 13, which is responsible for cybersecurity and data protection. It is a committee which is notably responsible for the adoption of international standards related to cybersecurity, mainly the standards from ISO SC GTC1 SC 27, but also for the development of specific standards for the European market, particularly in support of the European regulation, as I said before. So based on our observations, we have thus decided to create the National Standardization Commission Cybersecurity, which can be seen as a kind of one-stop shop for cybersecurity standardization. All the interested stakeholders can now register in a single National Standardization Commission to follow and participate in the development of the most relevant cybersecurity-related standards, which consist in a portfolio of around 100 active projects, both at European and international level. It represents for our experts an administrative simplification, since they only have to register one time to access all the activities. A pooling of efforts also, since all the national delegates are aware of the global context of cybersecurity standardization, as well as a strengthening of the participation in European standards projects, since all national delegates registered in the National Standardization Commission will be able to do the follow-up of the projects they have already followed at international level when they are adopted at European level. So the National Standardization Commission Cybersecurity is organized in two levels. at the root level, all the national delegates follow the projects of the European and international technical committees identified as relevant. So just as a reminder, GTC1 SC27, ISO Project Committee 317, as well as Sensenelec Joint Technical Committee 13. So they are aware of all the developments of all these committees. At the second level, the National Standardization Commission is divided in 7 working groups, each of them dealing with specific cybersecurity topics and mirroring international or European working groups. It is at this level that the first draft of the standards are developed and where experts can really contribute the most in the standards development. So here is the structure of the National Standardization Commission. So the first working group is dealing with cybersecurity management systems. It is the one, for example, responsible for the series ISO IC 27000. The working group 2, which is in charge of cryptography and security mechanisms. Working group 3, which is responsible for security evaluation, testing, and specification. Working group 4, which is dealing with cybersecurity controls and services. Working group 5, which is responsible for data protection, privacy, and identity management. Working group 6, which is in charge of product security. And finally, working group 7, which is working on trustworthiness-related standards. So, to summarize, with the creation of the National Standardization Commission Cybersecurity, ILNAS follows several objectives. First, to ensure better governance of the standardization work related to cybersecurity. Next, to improve the national delegates' experience of the standardization work. Also to simplify the access to the cybersecurity standards project. And finally, to strengthen the national community involved in the cybersecurity standardization. We intend in this frame to better address all the needs of the national market for its participation in cybersecurity technical standardization, and we aim at giving Luxembourg the opportunity to defend its interest in international and European cybersecurity standards projects. The creation of this National Standardization Commission is a first step, and we are currently also analyzing the possibility to adopt the same approach for other technical areas. With this presentation, we hope that we have aroused your interest to get involved in the work of the National Standardization Commission. And we would like to remind you that the participation in standardization technical committees in Luxembourg is open to everybody and is free of charge. We already have almost 300 experts involved in technical standardization, and it represents more than 1,000 registrations in technical committees and working groups at national, European, and international levels. So we invite you to join this community, and we will offer you all the support you need to participate in the standardization work in the most efficient manner. So in this frame, and as my colleague already said also, we have developed some online trainings that are available in order to facilitate your appropriation of technical standardization. Some of them are specifically dedicated to our national delegates in order for them to familiarize with the role of national delegates and related tools. So we warmly encourage you to consult these trainings for more detailed information. So they are available on our YouTube channel. So with these words, I think I've ended my presentation. So I think all of us, we would like to thank you for your participation in this event. And we wish you a very pleasant cybersecurity week. We will now open a live chat session in which we will be happy to answer all your questions. Thank you very much.